So welcome to video 3 in our introduction to coding with R. We talked about logistics in the first video and then why you want to learn to code with R. And now we're here looking at R for data management. We're just looking at how R works before looking at running commands in the video after this. So what we're going to do later is learn about these key files, which are R markdown files. We're going to learn about how to load them and view them and write code within them and comments as well. We'll also look at how to install packages and how to use the swirl tutorial, which is a package within R that you can use. We'll also look at things like plotting and how to do better plots. We'll look at how to read in tabular data and how to view files after you load them in, how to manipulate and transform them with packages like dplyr. We'll look at how to save that output as a file, and then maybe write some loops to see how we can use code to do things efficiently. So when you're on your computer, use the Software Center to find where RStudio is. That's the app that we will use. You should be able to load it there. There will be demonstration videos in the labs that will guide you in exactly what you want to do when you're actually doing this hands-on programming. But these videos will cover the theory behind that. So some of the important ideas behind this are the terminology that's used. So an ORMD file is an OR markdown files. It's just a text file of your coding comments. That's all. It could be labeled .text or something else. But ORMD is the standard file format. I note that it's capital R, then MD. We'll talk about vectors. A vector is just a list of numbers or a list of numbers and letters or a list of other things. It can be a list of strings only. We'll talk about variables. A variable is something that we define. So we might assign X as being a particular value, like a value 5, for example. So we can declare variables as we go along. Variables can be sent to a function. So a function is our code that does something specific, such as mean. Mean finds the average of the numbers that are in X. So if X has 3 numbers, 1, 2, 3, mean will give us the output, will give us the average of that, which is 2. It'll send that back to us. Arguments are data required by a function. So X is both a variable that we declare and an argument, the first argument for this function. A library is a package of R functions. So each package contains R functions and they do useful things. We'll load these with the library, well, I should say, we will activate them with the library function. The environment is the space in which you are working. So you're using Windows laptops and using the RStudio environment. Cran is a website where it has lots and lots of libraries that will gradually download. The reason why not all libraries are pre-installed is that there's thousands and more of them, so you don't need them all, just the specific ones that are relevant for you. So managing your data is important. The best one that I highly recommend is use R markdown files for your coding, and you can write everything down in there, even your notes, as you go along. It's quite flexible depending on what you want to do. You can record your commands in a notebook as well. I use Evernote myself. There's a free version of that. Or a text file can work as well, something like Notepad, but not a Word file because that formats it. And you can do that in your ORMD file as well as these other things. I'd recommend both, certainly when you're new to it. Use Excel only to store raw data as in the CSV format. So that's comma separated format. That's a standard format. Sometimes you get TSV as well. That's fine. But you should never manipulate your raw data manually, ever. And make a copy of that file so that you can import it into R, and then you can manipulate that in R further. So as a general, never, ever, 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 ever manipulate your raw data in Excel. So if you open R, which is the simple version of RStudio, the language you're dealing with is R, and R looks like this, but it's not a very nice interface. So that's why we use RStudio. It's basically a wrapper around R where you have 4 different panels. One is for things like plots or packages or files or help. This one up here has our environment, including our variables and history. So you can see there's lots of commands being done there. This is where you actually keep your code here. The scripting panel here. And this is just file parameters here. And then there's some code down here. And you see that, well, there's just one short comment of what is going on here. And then there's a special command at the top here where we're able to run lines. Or we can use Control Enter to run lines as well. Or we can run lines as blocks too. And this is the console. So when we run lines, we'll see it executed down here. And we'll see it executed down here, a bit like a command line situation. So ideally, we should not write code here. That's the wrong thing to do. We should write code up here, run it, and then see what is produced. So in the next video, we'll talk about how to do that in more detail.